The conversations and information provided are not intended to substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
The opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not reflect the view of Humana Military or the Department of Defense.
Welcome to the Operation Within podcast, where we talk about health and a deeper sense of well-being.
Operation Within is a collective initiative to optimize holistic health matters and nourish within community, within self, and within family.
Thank you for joining the conversation on Operation Within podcast. We are your hosts, Mel
and Marty, and our conversations are real, they're raw, and reflective.
These conversations offer meaningful dialogue on experiences within the military community, oriented to empower and strengthen health and vitality in our communities who serve.
We want to give a special thanks to Humana Military and our partners who have brought Operation Within to life.
Let's dive in.
All right, everyone. So welcome back to the Operation Within podcast. I'm back here with Kimberly Anderson from Endeavors. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi. Thank you for having me back. It's
of course. So one thing for the audience. So yeah, you may be thinking, wow, didn't we just do an Endeavors podcast with Kimberly Anderson? And yes, we did. But I got to tell you, the feedback has been great. And there's just so much information that we really didn't get to during our past discussion. So I thought it was prudent to definitely come back and revisit some of the programs and some of those areas that we really didn't get to dive into because the conversation was just so awesome, and you lose track of time and so on and so forth. But so I'm excited to have you back. And for all of you that are listening, again, this is a Operation Within podcast. We're focused on that holistic health, right, and overall wellness of the individual. If you've listened to our previous podcasts, right, you can find us on YouTube. You can like our page on Facebook or anywhere that you can download podcasts, and you'll get an idea of a lot of these conversations that we've been having with leaders from the community. And I think it's just so awesome to have leaders, right? And I call them leaders because these are the folks that are on the front lines, really, really supporting our military families through various programs. So again, I'm really excited to have you back, Kimberly. And but I've got to tell you, once we departed from our previous conversation, we were talking about unpacking the box, right? So I don't want to talk about unpacking the box today, but I do have a confession if you're ready for it.
Okay.
All right. So after our conversation, we're talking about unpacking the box, literally and figuratively, right? How do we unpack the box of either emotions or trauma or stress, whatever it may be. And sometimes that's reflected in stuff that's sitting in your garage, right? Mm-hmm. So after our conversation, I actually went through my garage and I opened up and I unpacked some of the boxes. I actually did.
Your 10, 15,000 tough boxes in there?
I did, right? I went up into my daughter's room. I went upstairs and, she just to make sure everything's tidied up. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm going to go. I know she's not here, but I just want to make sure that everything's good. The room is good.
Right.
Whatever she left behind, everything is good. Yeah, everything's good to go. But again, it's that figurative. Mm-hmm. I've got to unpack the box and just make sure everything's okay. And most of it was positive. Mm-hmm. Actually, the majority of it was positive. It's like, but it brought back some good memories. But, some of it is like, maybe I need to let go of some of this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was wondering, man, how do I do that? Like, how do I, if I wanted to let go of a bad experience, right? Or how do I cope with stress? And I really want our conversation today to kind of focus on that. So I've unpacked the box. I did it, right? So
okay.
I'm excited.
Hey, first of all, thank you for being authentic in saying to me and everyone else that, you had some boxes to unpack. I mean, I think we all have boxes there. Some of us just like to move them from place to place without unpacking them. And that happens. Some boxes don't need to be unpacked. They just need to be gone. But some of them, we just need to unpack them to get out the good and get rid of the bad. Yeah. Your question is great. What do we do with the stuff once it's all out on the floor, right? So what do we do with that? How do we kind of massage that and decide what's good and bad. And maybe something looks like it's bad, but you rub the dust off and you kind of and then you get down to that good part.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the ways that we thought about at Endeavor's Veteran Wellness Center. How do we help folks see what's good, what stuff they want to keep and hang on to, and what stuff that they want to let go of? And there's so many opportunities to do that in the wellness space at our new building on De Zavala here in San Antonio. And we designed it that way because not everybody has, the Simple Green and the towels to like get all the stuff and crud off, right? Like, you may be familiar with Simple Green if you've ever cleaned a weapon, but if not, you've ever cleaned a house or needed to get, ink out of those ACUs or BDUs or whatever you used. You had to get that magic piece for you. And everybody has their own stain recipe. Well, at Endeavor's, we have several stain recipes available.
I'm laughing at Simple Green.
I know.
I know the audience can't see the big grin that I had on my face when you said that, but it just took me back. It no kidding, took me back 20 years instantaneously. The fact you said Simple Green, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've used this thing. I've used this for so many different things at work.
That's right.
And it works. Let me tell you, Simple Green
Right.
will take anything out.
Right.
I can assure you that. But no, Kimberly, and that's, again, that's awesome. And that's where I think a lot of us is with literature that we read or we go to an event, and you see all these veteran services out there. And it's awesome when you get a pamphlet. Hey, guys, here's a website, or hey, here's a pamphlet, or give us a call. And then it stops. So the engagement essentially ends right there. And I think sometimes, I don't know if it's because we're hesitant or maybe we're afraid, right? We just don't know. Or maybe we generally just don't know. So what's next, right?
I think that there's two things to that. So I worked really hard with Dr. Palmer at our Chief of Behavioral Health at Endeavor's. She put together this wellness model, and we worked really hard at the different pieces of this wellness model and why we call them what we do. Lots of folks have heard of different, mind, body, spirit, in variations of those terms. Our first wellness pillar at Endeavor's is mind, body, and we don't separate the two. And this is why. Because they're not separate. What is happening in your mind is a chemical reaction at this simultaneously happening in your body. So all of the stuff, all the feelings, all of the actions, the stressors, every experience that you've had in your life, your body knows. And that sounds a little out there, but it's actually really scientific. Our tears are actually chemically different depending on the reason for the tears. Grief tears are different than sadness tears, and depression tears are different from happy tears. All of those are all different. It's a chemical reaction that's actually happening. So the other piece of that is that when you say mental health and you separate it from health in general, you're saying it's not equal to the same significance, or it is a different significance. And it's not. Mental health is health. So I have a few veterans in my life, friends, husband, lots of different folks around me. So I'm very well versed in the fact that a lot of folks don't like to take care of their health inside of the healthcare system because it typically tells them the things that are broken and wrong. And they Band-Aid things, right? So one of the reasons that we made this model, and there's 6 pillars in it, is because in the healthcare system, it's a sick care model. It's tell me your symptom and I will treat that. And maybe that might tell me something deeper. And if you have a really great practicing physician that can really dig into those deeper parts. But oftentimes they don't have the time and or the reimbursement to allow for that. So here we've taken those pillars and we've said, hey, all of these areas are really important, and we're not doing a sick care model. We're talking about what choices are you making daily and what things are happening in every area of your life that we can work on to support you becoming a better you tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. So some of us, we all have things that, there are the possibilities where things are much deeper and you definitely need medical help. I'm not saying don't seek medical help. I'm saying that we were looking for a different model for unpacking our boxes. Unpacking our boxes, we needed a different model than that sick care system of, oh, you're sad and you're experiencing nightmares and flashbacks and anger. So that checks the 3 boxes for PTSD, and here's your prescription.
Yeah. And I tell you, as a veteran, in my, and they've not, I've had some good experiences and some not so good experiences, but that's kind of the way I see going to the VA or going to the hospital or anything. It's like,
right,
they're just going to find something wrong. They're going to diagnose it, give me something, either treatment in whatever form, and then good luck. Hopefully that you do well, follow up 6 months. And I kind of see it like that. But as you're explaining that first pillar, and I know we're going to get into the different pillars of the wellness, right? The veteran support and wellness. But it's really resonating with me where you're right that the mind and body, it's one, right? So one affects the other.
right.
And so I think that this is going to be, this is a very important conversation to have. I think good information to share with the community. So I unpacked the box, right?
Okay.
I've got all my stuff laid out.
Yeah.
So, and some stuff I want to keep, some stuff I want to get rid of, but emotionally, so what do I do? How do I start, and how do I connect with Endeavors first off? And how do I which one of these pillars that you're going to talk about today, which one do you think that would be helpful for me to kind of deal with some of the stuff that I might be doing?
Sure.
Okay.
So first, I'll answer your question of how do you connect with Endeavors to get help? We have many recipes for help tailored to each person, but the first way that you can actually get there is to go to endeavors.org. So it's endeavors.org. We are a nonprofit, so we have that org at the end. And when you go to endeavors.org, you can click on what we do, or and you'll see veteran services. And under veteran services, you'll see several options. And two of the options are housed here in the building that we're about to open soon, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But and really getting in touch with us, you can send us a message through the website. You can call. You can call the main Endeavors number, or you can. There's ways to get a hold of us. All of them listed on there. I don't want to take up our time listing them.
Now, this is all private, correct? So if I reach out, it's not. It's completely confidential.
Absolutely,
information doesn't go out to anybody.
100%. We follow. We are trauma informed, which means we come from a place of understanding how trauma affects our clients, and we work towards not re-traumatizing them. So ensuring that they have their privacy. We have spaces where people can, even maybe they're providers in the community, they can wait and not be in a waiting room. We have the way we actually designed the lobby, what most people would call the lobby, we actually call the connection center, and that's our second pillar of wellness. So thank you for the great segue there.
I love that.
But that you're going to connect to us through the website, which is a secure message that is sent to us telling us who is needing services, or calling on the phone and asking for the Veteran Wellness Center, or you can stop by our building. And in our connection center, that we purposefully designed for folks to feel like they are in a place where they can be around folks and meet with folks, or they can be kind of, hey, I need to be around people, but I don't necessarily want to talk to people. It's very open. There's lots of light. There's windows. There's just, you can see all the exits and entrances.
And that's important.
It is.
That is
part
so
of the trauma-informed.
subtle.
Absolutely.
But you just tapped into that. And for the audience that's listening, I can tell you that anytime I walk into a restaurant or any building, I can tell you within 5 seconds where every exit is at and how I can get out quickly.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just experience or that's
Right.
just a natural reaction, but I can tell you right away. So that's awesome that y'all designed with everything is visible.
We designed that, and you can connect in that space. And in that space, we have the opportunity to serve you in whichever area you're coming in seeking. Because some folks have those boxes that they just like to move and lift and power lift, and they just want to move it out. They don't want to open it. They just need to move it 10,000 times to get the feel off. Mm-hmm. And that is totally okay. That's okay for them. That's what their recipe is. I'm good with that. We have things to accommodate that there. But being able to see that it's not all handled one way. It's not, oh, this is what we do and this is our shtick and, here you go. Whatever that is for you. We are able to say, when our clients come into the building, what brings you in today? Oh, well, I'm looking for the fitness center. Great. We have, so-and-so who would like to see you. They come, I hear you're interested in the fitness center. I'd love to talk to you about it. They talk about why we built our fitness center the way we did. They talk about how it is involved in our wellness pillar. And then we have this wonderful model of giving discounts and free months for doing your own wellness assessment.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you get to say, well, this is kind of how I'm feeling about this. And maybe this area I want to beef up a little more. And now I'm seeing all these boxes laid out and I want to have some more help and support in this mind-body area. So how do I get that? Well, then we have the mental health and behavioral health departments who we then literally, here we go, here's so-and-so, they'll help you from here on out. And if it's virtually, we literally bring you over. If it's over the phone, we make sure it's a good transfer. If it's in person, we walk you over and help you get that connection made so that the connection doesn't fall. Because just like you said, right, if somebody says, oh, great, I have somebody for you to talk to, here's their card. Do you call?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's kind of a hit and miss. Mm-hmm. But you're right, because there's a lot of literature, but it's like, man, I don't need you to hold my hand, but just nudge me. And if you walk someone to the room or say, hey, let's call together. Oh, man, I'm already halfway there.
Absolutely.
And that helps so much. So, man, that is really good. So 2 pillars so far. We talked about it, and we talked about mind and body, and you talked about connectedness. And I think it's important that how something as subtle as designing a connection room. You didn't even call it a lobby, because honestly, I'm an extrovert. I can meet anybody anywhere. Right. I don't care where I'm at. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You're talking to somebody in a waiting room, and just full on conversation. The girls are like, who's that? I just met him. Yeah. And they think that I know him forever. But
and we have the ever present coffee, which facilitates conversation.
Oh, coffee.
Right?
Oh,
so
I'm in. You had me at coffee.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, we have a veteran owned coffee bar opening with Reveille Coffee, and they will be actually roasting their own coffee in there. So it's really, we really were extremely intentional, and every single piece of our building that we brought together fits in a wellness pillar, and it fits inside of who we're serving and why. And veteran-owned, veteran-operated, focused on veterans and their families, and making sure that we are supporting the whole veteran by supporting their families as well.
Yeah. And that's important to have that familiarity,
Right.
maybe speaking some of the same language, or just some of the nuance, right, of
Right.
military terms and speak and so on and so forth.
That cultural competency.
It's so vital. And I'll quickly just share an
Yeah.
experience with connecting that mind and body. And I actually visited with a health professional,
Mm-hmm.
and she was doing her job,
Yeah.
assessing me,
Mm-hmm.
but we had no connection. She was just essentially asking questions, and I'm like, man, I can't. I don't know how to answer these, because I don't know if you genuinely care what I'm feeling,
Right.
or you're just filling out a form to submit and try to offer me care.
Absolutely.
I don't think that was her intent, but that's how it felt.
Right.
Right. So it was like, man, I just wasted my time. I felt like I wasted my time. I was like, I'm never going back.
Right.
So is that common for folks? And again, y'all are intentional on how you design this, but in your experience, is that common for veterans or families to say, you know what, it's just too cumbersome. I just don't feel that connection. I just don't want to go.
So I think it's very common in general when seeking services in the medical or behavioral health area, because it's already a big ask for them to get on the phone and make the phone call. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that everybody who answers that phone is the most kind, caring, compassionate, empathetic person who is exuding nothing but warmth. And the other piece of that is that all of our questions and intake assessments, even our wellness assessment that we designed, is extremely intentional about the questions we're asking. For instance, one of the questions on it is, how many hours of sleep did you get last night?
It's a great question.
So how many?
How many hours of sleep? 5.5, maybe 5, maybe 6.
Okay. Did you wake up in the night?
Twice.
Okay. Do you feel rested?
No.
Okay. So maybe somebody would say like, hey man, 6 hours is fantastic. So those questions are designed to say, how are you feeling about your sleep? Not, hey, you got 6 hours. That's more than most. So I'm going to put you in the 75th percentile. Good luck with that. Right? So it's helping you understand where you are, helping you say, assess your own health and how you are perceiving it, so that you can understand how to say, this is what I need, or that's what I need, or I need more of this.
Yeah, well, I think it's the answer has to come from within, right?
Absolutely.
That's operation within, and that is we want to teach and we want to provide services so that we can internalize some of these things that we're feeling, internalize the information, right? Synthesize it and try to okay, so what do I do with it, right? How can I'm creating a program or a path towards wellness. So how do I take all this information from someone who genuinely cares about my well-being? So that's a beautiful tie into what we're trying to achieve with this podcast and this effort with Operation Within.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to say, where do you fall? It is a client-based system across our Veteran Wellness Center. It is client-led and client-based. So we are asking you to make your own assessments of where you are at. I'm not going to tell you, because I am not you. I need you to make, and we lead you through that process with the questions that can help you say, well, gosh, yeah, that's not what I would have thought I would have answered, but definitely do not feel rested. So maybe that is something I want to work on. Then we can say, oh yeah, because this also leads to these symptoms and these kinds of things that you see. So how can we really support that goal of improving sleep? Maybe it's, when was the last time you used tobacco? That's another question. Yep. Well, some people will be like, never. And some people will be like, 3 days ago, or today, or an hour ago, or 15 minutes ago. And it's not a, do you use tobacco, which is actually really kind of judgmental in a way. It's just, when was the last time? We're going to the assumption is that this isn't a thing. It's just, when was the last time?
Yep. I just want to know. We genuinely want to. Yeah, exactly.
And I want you to be honest with yourself, because it doesn't matter to me. But what are your goals in it? The next question is, what do you want to stop?
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. So, man, we're on this great path. So I'm buying into this. I'm definitely looking at. So we've looked at mind and body. We looked at connectedness. So spiritual, right?
Yeah.
So I know this is kind of deep, right? The spiritual aspect of this. So how does endeavors? So how does that tie into spirituality and seeking and providing care?
So our definition of spirituality isn't a specific faith tradition or a specific religion. It is from the foundations of that we all belong to something greater than ourselves, and how we view ourselves in connection with that and everyone else. That drives our purpose. So the spirituality piece of us drives our purpose. And that our connection to something greater than ourselves is what pulls us all together and drives and allows for the connectedness and allows for all of these other pieces to come together. The spirituality is so deep. That's like the most basic way I can describe it. And I feel like it's just so not even enough. But it kind of ties in actually with that next pillar, environmental. Okay. I like to really kind of describe them together because I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to the ocean or around mountains or to the redwoods. But when you are around something that's so much bigger than you, it's just that piece that kind of puts perspective into life. And I feel like nature is a really great way of connecting spirituality separate from a faith tradition. Is just that I am definitely a part of something bigger. The funny thing is that most veterans have been very spiritual during their service because they were very much connected by a very specific purpose to something much greater than themselves.
Absolutely. I'm thinking as you're explaining that, the spiritual and the environmental, there's nothing like, getting on a kayak, going, just kayaking for, an hour. The water's serene, you're just out there by yourself with your thoughts, right? Or, you're out at one of the local parks that we have here in San Antonio or wherever you're listening at, and you just go for a walk, just gonna take an hour or 20 minutes or whatever it is, and you're on a trail and, the birds are chirping, just nature is just, and you're just thinking, man, this is fantastic. Or you're somewhere, like you said, somewhere, you're at the Grand Canyon.
Right.
I mean, you're hiking Grand Canyon, or you're at, Lake Powell out there with the family, or Arches National, wherever. I mean, you pick something, but you're right. It's like something greater. You belong to something bigger. Right. And I find that for me, that is when I'm most at peace, and I can have all these pieces, that I unpack from these boxes, right? And I can just be at peace and say, that was a great experience and that was a good moment, and I can kind of move on. But trying to replicate that, away from these environmental these, like a park or something grand, doing it at home or doing it at work. I mean, that's the challenge, right? Is trying to find that balance.
Well, and kind of what you can do. So, for instance, we're looking at all of the pieces out and deciding, what are we keeping? What are we maybe keeping part of, but not the other part? That spiritual and environmental piece, when you combine them together and you're outside, and that's that time where it kind of actually puts those pieces into perspective. That's that place where you can gain, you may have unpacked them, and remember, everything we touch doesn't have to have a decision in that moment. Sometimes it's that we need to just know that there's a decision to be made. But rushing to these decisions, and it's easy to do, right? We're inundated with constant information and constant, like, do it now, do it now, do it now. But that time in spirituality or in environmental or in connection with us right now kind of places that perspective on those pieces that you've pulled out. And it says, yeah, no, I can make a decision about that because now I've gained a little bit of perspective and that's not as important as I thought, or that is so important. I definitely know what I want to do with it. And it's not what I would have thought before. And in delaying that decision, you can make an informed decision.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of these, I know for me, the adventures and kind of going out and hiking and talking to my peers, right, or friends, or someone that maybe experienced something similar, right, or dealt with this, previous, and just listening to how they were able to cope and deal with trauma or stress or separation, whatever it may be. That's all great information, and that connects us. It just reassures me or the group that, hey, I can do this. Like, this is going to be fine. That is, again, it resonates with me that, not having to make a decision in that moment. And I think maybe that is in previous podcasts, we've talked about how the Western culture, we're very low context. We live and die by the schedule, by the time. Hey, I've got to be there at 5, got to pick up the kids at 6. And that's just who we are. But a lot of the kind of like the European culture, I know in Asia, they're more high context. They value relationship and time. And I want to eat, and you don't have to bring me the bill, right away in 20 minutes. Like, we're going to be here for 2 hours, and we're going to drink wine, and we're going to do whatever. But I think culturally, that's just who we are. We just want to get through it because we have 10,000 other things we need to get done. This is important, but I'll get to it later. I'll just get to it later because I'm so overwhelmed. But I find that peace doing what I'm doing, those adventures. So.
And I think so. And you see how they're tying together, right? It's the environmental, the spiritual, the connectedness, and the mind body that you mentioned in just one event with the folks who are culturally similar to you. Yeah. In maybe 2 hours. But it fed all those areas. And when we're very aware of what we're doing, we can then turn our focus and say, I need to think about this maybe while I'm out so that it might lean towards something that helps me gain some more understanding. And and that actually ties in with knowledge, which is our last pillar. So I'm going to skip over one. I'll come back to it in a second. Okay. But that really ties to the knowledge. I can't stress enough how much knowledge is important for our wellness. It's not just that old adage of, well, you learn something new every day. It's not. You can hear a fact. Everybody is inundated with facts all day long. What I'm talking about is knowledge that you connect to and you actually say, how does this apply to me? How do I want to use this? How do I want to maybe not use this? How does this matter? And when we take knowledge and we gain it from someone through a connection, or we gain it through some spirituality, or we gain it through other pieces, and we incorporate them into those other areas, we actually keep our brain younger, we keep our cognition sharper, and we age better.
I like that.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to stay young?
I want to feel young for sure.
Right. Well, but that's really how we do it. When we're learning, what a better way to feel young than learning something new and going, I think I know how I want to use that. Not just this factoid that we're going to then repeat in a meme
just
somewhere.
Just regurgitate. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Just that.
Because we all remember that meme? If you don't have a connection to it, that connection happens because you have had an emotional response. And let's go back to that. That emotional response is also a physical response. There's a chemical that happened when you saw that and you manipulated that knowledge in some way, which kind of, I'm going to back into the everyone's least favorite pillar of wellness, which is economic. It's actually one of my like pet pillars I love to talk about, because people don't like to talk about the economic piece, right? The only time people like to talk about it is if they feel confident in their financial wellness. But 85% of us don't. And of those 85%, they would liken their financial wellness to be the cause of their stressors. And it actually reduces the number of work days that they're able to work every year.
How so? And now I'm intrigued. How is that? How does that happen?
When you're stressed, you're sick.
Okay. When you're stressed, you're
when
right.
you're stressed, you're sick. And so you have to take mental health days and when your financial wellness is not fully in order, you're going to have to utilize your mental health days. You're going to have to utilize other avenues of kind of, hey, I need to take more time off. Because those stressors from finances. Now, I don't like to say the B word. Do you know what the B word is?
Broke.
Budget.
Oh, budget.
I hate that because it implies broke. I don't like broke either. But the budgets imply constraint. They imply restriction, right? Mm-hmm. I like to call it a spending plan.
That sounds a little bit better.
What do you think about that?
It definitely sounds better. Budget, you're right. It does sound constrained. I'm budgeting, I'm limiting, but a spend plan sounds a little bit more open, more flexible.
More flexible.
Yeah.
I think
like
it's also more empowering, right? Because when you're developing your spending plan, I feel more in charge of it when I say it like that. When it's a budget, I feel like, oh, I have to fall inside of this perceived, 60, 10, 40, whatever. That's not the right math, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
60, 10, 30 split of spending, saving, paying off debt, whatever. So when we talk about the economic pillar, we actually don't come from just the numbers. I don't really usually talk about the numbers right off. The first thing I talk about are your values. Because your time is way more valuable than any dollar you make. And how you spend your time needs to be aligned with your values. Because if it's not, you're going to hate your job.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, Mel and I we had a podcast, a discussion on our relationship with money.
Okay.
Right. And it kind of feeds into this economic pillar. And we did talk about that, how, it is uncomfortable. I know we didn't give any financial advice, but we were just explaining how, we value money and wealth,
right? And
how that can be, the cause of some of our stress, right? And how we live and so on and so forth. It was a really good discussion. And a lot of my friends all got a free car because Mel and I both got $1 million during that discussion, and a hypothetical $1 million. But
right.
No, but I think that is true though. That being that financially sound, or man, I need to budget, or I need to do whatnot. That is a cause of stressors, cause of divorce. I have friends that have gotten divorced over money.
I'm so glad you said that, because the first thing that I do with folks when we talk about financial wellness, is I have them do a values assessment on themselves. And there's values assessments out there for free. If you want to, go ahead and take one. Yep. I suggest you also have your partner or spouse or person that you are sharing expenses with do it as well, because this is the enlightening part right here, gold. If you all don't have the same values leaning towards them, then your spending habits are going to be very different. And the chances are there's going to be some fights.
Yes. Hiding some money, maybe overspending. And again, I have friends.
Or just resentment.
Absolutely. You didn't tell me. Yeah. And I totally get it.
Yeah.
But money is, just the talk of money gets awkward really quickly.
It does, but it doesn't have to, because if you talk about your values, and this is the piece this is the gold piece, is that if you understand that your spouse, your partner, the person you're sharing expenses with, is spending their time and money towards their values, and you understand what their values are, it's much easier to come to a place of common understanding if you both understand that you're both coming from this place of the values that you each hold. And then you can find that common understanding. Okay, wait, this isn't because they're quote unquote irresponsible. It's because what drives them is different from what drives me.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So maybe wealth doesn't drive me. Maybe it's service that drives me. So there isn't a value to me to making money, but there is much value to me in spending time serving.
Yeah.
But if my spouse or partner or person is very driven by a wealth-oriented value system, which is not a bad judgment on that, it is just different.
It's different. Mm-hmm.
Then that is going to be extremely frustrating.
Yep. And I mean, that's, you see, it's about compromise. It's about meeting in the middle. So not just relationships at home, but even at work with coworkers.
Absolutely.
And I know for our audience out there, we are constantly engaging with folks from all walks of life, different values, different perspectives. Those differences, for sure, they are definitely the cause of stress. But
Absolutely.
So it's just really good to try to understand it from the other perspective,
right?
Not agree or disagree. Just let me just try to understand it. But that's difficult. That's difficult because we naturally judge, right, based on our that's just natural. It's not a bad thing, but we naturally judge,
right?
But as we increase our knowledge of programs and people and self, right? And, we understand kind of why people think the way they do, or possibly maybe we don't need to agree with it, but we can understand it.
Well, it's just empowering.
Yeah.
Right? Because the more knowledge you have on why things happen gives you the ability to remove judgment in place of knowledge, because judgment is just what we do when we don't have the knowledge to make a decision about it. Yeah. That's why we judge books by their cover, right? We make an assessment based on what we're seeing to fill in the gaps of what we don't know.
That's it.
So when we can come back from that and back to the whole services piece of this, is that at the Veteran Wellness Center and at Endeavors, we've been really focused on making sure that as a part of the community, we bring in partners like RWB for outdoor wellness. We bring in partners that, like the Pink Berets, who really focus on women's aspects of wellness, right? We bring in partners like Mission Continues. We bring in just a tremendous amount of folks that we can work with to bring more knowledge to the available resources in our community, more knowledge to the subjects that matter to the community, more resources on how to get the needs met in our community. And then what that does is having folks in the policy maker positions around us, we can drive that awareness to say, hey, this is how we're struggling. This is what we need to do. And we can all come together to do better. So when we treat the whole veteran in all the areas of wellness by providing services for their physical services and their the mind-body pillar, we provide connectedness opportunities. We provide opportunities to gain knowledge on spirituality, opportunities to be the environment and be utilizing these other pillars out in the environment, information and support for the economic pillars. And I'm talking about not just like a financial class, which we have based on values. It's a values-based financial class, but support for veterans who may be homeless, experiencing homelessness, support for veterans who are needing employment support or food security, all of these services. And then we also bring in our community partners and the amazing folks at Endeavors who have so much experience and wealth of knowledge to share, so that you don't, I mean, it may be you're like, hey, yeah, I just really want to grow it. I don't want to make a budget. I want to make a spending plan. So I'm going to go because I want to know how to do that. Great. Once a quarter, we're going to have that class available in our community center so that you can come. And in our community center, by the way, also Go Slow and Breathe is going to be providing a little mini retreat on visualization and meditation and journaling. And, you know, oh, by the way, the Pink Berets are going to be doing a nutrition class with their chefs. And so I hope that helps kind of give some information on how we are using our services. I love to talk about our services, but I love to talk about it in the real way that we're providing them, which is, where are you? What services do you need? And then I can talk about how we're going to support you in those.
Yeah. So again, I'm just so thankful that, believe it or not, we're coming down to the end of our discussion again, right? And there's just so much information, but as I'm listening to, and I'm being genuine. I know the audience, this isn't a setup or a play. I'm actually genuinely thinking about how can I connect with Endeavors to just, again, really to gain more knowledge. And that's really, how do I gain knowledge, and then how do I kind of, feel that connectedness, and just try to kind of really deal with unpacking the box as a empty nester,
right?
And veteran, retiree, and transitioning. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just to acknowledge that is I'm not ashamed to acknowledge that, but it's tough. I mean, it's really, really tough. And I know my wife, Patty, she's dealing with the separation and empty nesting in her own way, right? So trying to come together and try to figure out how we move forward. Those are challenging and tough conversations, because are we aligned, right? And that's are we aligned? And it's like, man, so this information is relevant to me, and I just hope that this is relevant to the audience, and I know it is, because a lot of us are kind of dealing with change, right? And life stressors,
right?
Nobody is immune from that, right?
No.
Everyone's dealing with something or coping with something. So I love that Endeavors can offer this myriad of services and programs for military families, not just the member, but their families as well,
right?
Regardless of
discharge
status. I know we talked about it previously, and I love that there's confidentiality in our conversations.
Absolutely. And there one other thing, and I didn't get to touch on that quite yet, was that we have for folks who may want to stop using a substance, whatever that is. Tobacco, alcohol, any kind of synthetic, drugs, any kind of pharmaceuticals, whatever. We have support for that. We have recovery paths for that. We served last year in just one piece of our program, we served 270 veterans. And out of those 270 veterans, we did 46 crisis plans. And what we did with those is, those were 46 veterans said, I have thoughts of dying and I have a plan. And I can use the plan. I have a means to do it. So 46 of them, 2 veterans in the whole year we called for a wellness check. That's it, just 2. We had 0 hospitalizations. So if you're thinking about reaching out for help, I don't want you to think they're going to think I'm crazy, they're going to lock me up. That's not the plan for everybody who says, I've had a thought about dying. Our plan is to support you in keeping you safe. We want to support keeping you safe. And the majority of the time, as you can tell, it has nothing to do with even making a phone call outside of our building. So I wanted to say those numbers so that folks can hear when you call and we ask you, hey, are you having these thoughts? You can be honest. And we're not going to call the police, and we're not going to send them to your door to take you to the basement in the VA.
Yep. And I think that's important that we can kind of put that out there. So if you're wondering how to get a hold of Endeavors, you can call 210-431-6466. And I'll repeat that again, 210-431-6466. Or you can go visit them at endeavors.org, as Kimberly mentioned earlier. And again, and Kimberly, as we kind of bring it back to our initial conversation, we talked about, really unpacking the box, right? Literally and figuratively. And, I can tell you that this conversation and how Endeavors is really providing support for the Alamo City veterans and their families. I think this is such a value-added resource, and we had to absolutely do a part 2, just to really dive into the different programs and just to really reiterate how, again, there's privacy, there's confidentiality,
right?
And it's a complete safe space. If you're looking for help, we're
is.
there to help you. And I'm excited. I'm excited to come back, actually look into so I'm excited about Veterans Day. So can you talk about Veterans Day?
Yes.
We haven't talked about that.
So really quick, first of all, we don't just provide mental health services. So if it doesn't matter what we're not going to say, oh, well, here's your therapist and now you're in therapy. When you come and you're seeking some services, you're going to get what you need. But the day that we can start providing that is actually Veterans Day this year. We're so excited to open our new building and to be able to serve veterans. It's one of the reasons our numbers were a little low, because we had to do everything virtually last year. But we're already on track to more than double that number of folks that we served. And we're really excited on Veterans Day to open our brand new building on Days of Allah that houses a fitness center for veterans and their families. It houses a community room where our community partners can come and provide resources for folks, up to 150 folks.
Wow, that's a big space.
Yeah, it is. And it's state of the art. Like, you can have a virtual meeting, and you can do it in person at the same time and not even have to have a microphone, because you can stand anywhere in there and they can hear you. It's fantastic. We have a coffee bar and this connection center where we're also going to have some, games like chess and backgammon, and places where you can come and just kind of hang out and just, be around folks who have an understanding of where you've been. And so we're so excited. We also in our building have massage therapy through Float SA. We have an attorney who works with veterans who may need to file an appeal on their claim. We have a headache specialist who, by the way, has helped me with my migraines that I didn't even know were creating my neck pain. Lots of things to come on that, because we're going to have some clinics so that folks can understand a little more about headaches. We have a financial planner. We have a psychiatrist. We were so intentional about we have physical therapy through Outcomes Therapy, who's veteran owned, currently using their services right now. The benefits of working in a wellness center is that you can, really keep good track of your wellness, right?
Absolutely, right.
But every single person that we have in the building, as you can tell, it is a wide variety of things that are extremely intentional about making sure that we have the resources that you're going to need to support.
So I'm looking forward to the grand opening on Veterans Day. So for all of our followers, I know Team Red, White, and Blue San Antonio know our chapter. We're planning to be a part of this opening in some way, shape, or form, even just to show up and maybe have a table out there with some information.
We have one reserved for you.
And again, so on our Team RWB mobile app, if you don't have the app already, you can download it online. It's free, but we will create an event and for more details. So more details to follow on this opening and kind of, but please come out and join us. But Kimberly, I'll tell you, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you coming back. Thanks. And just spending another hour with us, with the audience. And again, for our audience, our goal is just to provide resources, right? Is to just increase that knowledge of what is out there. And even for me, I feel like my transition, there were parts of it that were difficult, but overall, I feel well. I don't feel terrible, but there are times that I do want to reach out to someone and maybe find some of those resources and find something that's targeted for me. And I know Endeavors definitely has something for me, and it has something for everyone.
I think you've given me the perfect opportunity to end on our definition of wellness.
Okay.
Which is to empower you to become aware of and make choices towards daily your continued success and improvement for tomorrow.
I love it.
So every choice you make has the opportunity to move you towards wellness.
Yep. And that's what we're doing here with this Operation Within podcast. So we appreciate everyone listening. Again, you can check out all of our previous podcasts and discussions with Mel and Marty. Again, you can find us on YouTube. You can like our Facebook page. You can find some of our posts, Operation Within posts, on Instagram. And I know social media was down yesterday, right? So I think the planet was on complete panic mode, right? But we're back. Everybody is back. But please, thank you for listening. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. And again, and if any of this information is helpful for you or a family member or a friend, someone that's in need, please share this information with them. Please share the link. Yes. We really, really appreciate it. But with that, again, just to keep it simple, don't forget to eat, don't forget to smile, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Take care.
Thank you so much, Marty.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.